Project 3, I used the dataset police shootings. So abstraction is the reduction of a particular body of data to a simplified representation of the whole. This dataset particularly represents every fatal shooting since January 1st, 2015 in the United States by a police officer in the line of duty. But the following is the abstraction of the real-world entities analyzed in this project. First, I used age, which is an integer, and it's just representing the age in years of the individual, or 0 was put if the age was not reported. Next, I used armed, which is a string, and it's a description of any weapon carried by the person, and the value is unknown if not reported. Then finally, gender is a string, and it's either male or female. So some of the limitations that I encountered in the age data set, if the victim was unknown, it was entered as 0, which made the data less accurate because we couldn't see the actual distribution of the ages when there were uncertainties recorded. And then again, with the weapon, there was also an option for unknown and determined and other, which means there could have been many more victims who were actually unarmed, and we just couldn't see that because they were put under these categories. And then the final problem that I came across with this specific data set was that there weren't many quantitative entities. They were all strings mainly, except for the date. So I had some limitations on the visualizations that I was able to create because I couldn't do anything that would require analyzing the relationships between two quantitative entities. So here's the data structure map for this data set. The list of dictionaries includes person, incident, factors, and shooting. For person, the list of dictionaries is name, which is a string, age, which is an integer, gender, string, race, string. For incident, it was broken up into date and location. Location was broken up into city, which is a string, and state, which is a string. And then date was month, day, year, all integers, and then full, which is a string, and that's just the date in day, month, year format. Then for factors, it was broken up into armed, mental illness, threat level, and fleeing. Those are all strings except mental illness is a Boolean, which means the victim either had mental illness or did not. And then finally, shooting was broken up into manner, which is a string, and body camera, which is a Boolean. So it said true if the cop was wearing a body camera, and false if they were not. So here's my first question: what age range are most victims in? As you can see by this histogram, it shows the distribution of the ages of the victims. And it is clear that in the 30 to 40-year-old age range, that is where most victims are killed. And that just kind of goes to show that even if other ages do pose big threats, police aren't going to be as likely to shoot somebody who's, say, under 20 or somebody who's over 50, because that would be a worse look for them. And also, as you can see, there is a lot that's between 0 and 10, but that's, again, because if their age was unknown, it would be recorded as 0. So my next question is, what % of victims were unarmed? And as you can see in this pie chart, it says that 6.4% were unarmed, which is about 272, I believe, people out of the 4,294 instances reported, which 6.4 may not seem like a very significant amount, but then if you think about it, 272 is a lot of people who were unarmed and shot by police even though they were innocent. And then there's also 5.4% whose possession of a weapon was unknown, which could also mean they were unarmed or the police just didn't see anything, which could again play into the factor of whether or not they were innocent when the police shot them. And this is like a big problem that our country faces, because a lot of the time police may think that they're armed and then they end up not, and it really puts a damper on the whole situation. My final question is, which gender is most likely to be affected by police shootings? And as you can see by this bar graph, the results are very significant. Males have about 4,000 instances reported, and females have, it looks like, less than 250. And that goes to show that, like, maybe police aren't as accurate and they're more basing it off of stereotypes because they feel more threatened by males, which is another big problem in our society today. So here are the social impacts. The stakeholders that are likely to be impacted by this data are citizens, police officers, police departments, and judges. Citizens are the ones that are mainly threatened because the police are obviously shooting citizens, and especially males between 30 and 40, as seen from the data abstraction and representations in the visualizations. Police officers must protect themselves from harmful people, but also make sure not to act fast and kill someone innocent. So, like, their whole life is on the line here, but also their reputations are at stake. Specific police departments must analyze this data, especially the data about unarmed victims, in order to find a way to limit accidental police brutality. And judges must determine who in the situation is at fault. Then some of the conflicts that may occur between stakeholders, obviously, the officers and the citizens have big conflict because officers are the ones shooting citizens and citizens are the ones, in most instances, inflicting that brutality. And then police departments, judges, and officers come into conflict when these incidences occur because it puts the departments in close eye of the law and the officers in close eye with the department, because somebody must be reprimanded for their actions. And that's the end.